AITA for telling my dad's new wife she's not my real mom? I, 26F, grew up in a relatively happy household with my mom, Renee, dad, Mark, and younger sister, Leah, 23F. My parents were married for over 20 years and were the definition of a stable couple, or so I thought. 4 years ago, my mom passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. It devastated my entire family. My dad seemed to take it the hardest. He was inconsolable for months, and Leah and I did our best to support him while grieving ourselves. But about a year after Mom's death, things started to change. Dad met a Rachel, 45F, and their relationship progressed fast. Within 6 months, she had moved in, and they were engaged shortly after. Leah and I were shocked at how quickly it all happened, but we didn't want to stand in Dad's way if this made him happy. However, things with Rachel quickly became complicated. From the moment Rachel entered the picture, she seemed determined to insert herself into every aspect of our family. At first, she was overly friendly, constantly asking about our lives, our routines, and even our childhood memories with Mom. It felt like she was trying too hard to fill a role that wasn't hers. Leah and I gave her the benefit of the doubt. We figured she was just nervous about blending into a family still grieving. But as time went on, Rachel's behavior became intrusive. She started rearranging the house, removing photos of Mom, and redecorating without consulting anyone. She also began referring to herself as our bonus mom, which made me uncomfortable. I told her I wasn't ready for that kind of relationship, and she said, "I understand, it'll just take time." Leah, on the other hand, had no patience for Rachel. They clashed constantly, and Leah eventually moved out because she couldn't handle the tension at home. I stayed to keep the peace, but it was exhausting. Fast forward to last year, and Dad and Rachel got married. I was supportive on the surface, but conflicted inside. Rachel had been pushing Leah and me to call her a mom in the lead up to the wedding. I repeatedly told her no, but she'd brush it off with comments like, "You'll come around eventually." At the wedding reception, Rachel made a speech thanking everyone for welcoming her into the family. She got emotional and said, "I'm so grateful to finally be a mom to 2 wonderful daughters." Leah looked like she was about to explode, and I was frozen in my seat. I wanted to stand up and scream, "You're not my mom," but I bit my tongue for Dad's sake. After the wedding, Rachel told me she hoped we could have start fresh and build a stronger bond. I tried to be polite, but the truth was, I felt like she was erasing my mom's memory, and it was starting to build into resentment. A few weeks ago, Rachel hosted a family dinner at their house. Leah and I were invited, and it started out civil enough. But during the meal, Rachel began reminiscing about all the ways she's been a mother figure to us over the past few years. She talked about how she helped Dad get through his grief and how she's tried so hard to be there for us as a mom would. I was already annoyed, but then she said something that made my blood boil. "I think Renee would be so proud of the mother I've become to her girls." That was it. I snapped. I told Rachel, "You're not my mom, and you'll never be. Stop trying to replace her." The room went silent. Rachel looked hurt, and Dad was furious. He told me I was being disrespectful and that Rachel had done nothing but try to love us. Leah, however, sided with me and said Rachel had been overstepping boundaries since day one. I ended up leaving the dinner early, and now things are a mess. Dad says I owe Rachel an apology. Rachel hasn't reached out at all, and Leah is encouraging me to stand my ground. Part of me feels guilty for blowing up, but another part feels like I finally said what I've been holding in for years. So, Reddit, AITA for telling my dad's new wife she's not my real mom? Top comments from readers. NTA, Rachel has no right to erase your mom's memory or push herself into a role you're not comfortable with. You're allowed to have boundaries. 18K upvotes. NTA, your dad should be respecting your feelings too. This isn't about being disrespectful, it's about Rachel not listening to what you need. 15K upvotes. ESH, Rachel was out of line, but snapping at her in the middle of dinner might not have been the best way to handle it. I'd recommend having a calm, private conversation to explain your feelings. 9K upvotes. Update, 2 weeks later. Thank you so much to everyone who commented on my post. Your advice and support helped me see the situation more clearly, and I wanted to share what's happened since. After reading your comments, I decided to have a private conversation with my dad. I told him how much Rachel's behavior has been affecting me and that I felt like my feelings about mom were being ignored. I explained that while I respect his relationship with Rachel, I'm not ready, and may never be ready, to see her as a mom. Dad was quiet for a while, but eventually, he admitted he hadn't considered how all of this was impacting me and Leah. He apologized for pushing Rachel's narrative and said he'd talk to her about giving us more space. As for Rachel, that conversation was harder. When I sat down with her, I tried to be calm but firm. I told her that while I appreciate her efforts to connect, I need her to stop referring to herself as our mom. I said that my relationship with my mom is irreplaceable, and her constant comments feel like she's trying to erase that bond. Rachel got defensive at first, saying she was just trying to help and that she didn't mean to upset me. But after some back and forth, she finally said, "I didn't realize how much it was hurting you. I guess I was so focused on building a family with your dad that I didn't stop to think about what you and Leah needed." While I appreciated her acknowledgement, I made it clear that I needed more than words. I needed her to respect my boundaries moving forward. She agreed and promised to be more mindful. The family dinner tension hasn't completely gone away, but it feels like the air has cleared somewhat. Rachel has been noticeably more careful about how she refers to herself around me and Leah. She even mentioned during a recent conversation that she's been reflecting on how to better respect our relationship with mom's memory. Things aren't perfect, but they're better. Dad has stopped pressuring me to call Rachel a mom, or to see her in a way I'm not ready for. Leah is still keeping her distance, but told me she's proud of me for standing up for us. Rachel and I aren't exactly close, but we're trying to coexist in a way that feels healthier for everyone. She's still navigating how to balance her role as Dad's wife without overstepping into being a mother figure, but at least now she's making an effort. I'm glad I spoke up, even if it wasn't in the most graceful way. Setting boundaries has always been hard for me, but this experience has taught me that sometimes you have to speak your truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Thank you, Reddit, for giving me the courage and perspective to handle this situation. Your advice truly made a difference. Update 2, 1 month later. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share where things stand now. Things with Rachel and my dad have shifted, though not entirely in the way I expected. After our last conversations, Rachel initially seemed more respectful of my boundaries. She stopped calling herself my bonus mom, and even put a few photos of mom back in the house. While I appreciated the effort, it felt performative, like she was doing it to avoid further conflict rather than because she truly understood. But here's the surprising part: Rachel recently reached out to Leah and me separately. She said she wanted to better understand our perspective and how her actions have hurt us. I was skeptical, but I agreed to meet her for coffee. During our talk, Rachel admitted that she'd been so focused on building her own place in the family that she hadn't considered how it might feel for us. She said, "I've been so afraid of being seen as an outsider that I went too far trying to fit in." She also admitted that she's been insecure about never having children of her own and sometimes projects that onto Leah and me. For the first time, it felt like she was genuinely listening. I told her that while I understand her intentions, it's vital for her to respect the fact that my relationship with mom is sacred and irreplaceable. I explained that trying to force a motherly role only pushes me and Leah further away. She actually got emotional and said, "I've been so worried about making Mark happy that I forgot to ask what you and Leah needed." It was a surprisingly honest and vulnerable conversation, and while I'm still cautious, I feel like we've taken a step in the right direction. Dad, meanwhile, has been quieter about the whole situation. I think Rachel shared our conversation with him because he hasn't brought up the issue of me apologizing again. He's been more focused on just spending time with me and Leah, which feels like a relief. However, one thing that has been hard for him to hear is how Leah and I still feel some lingering resentment about how quickly he moved on after mom's death. I know he's been grappling with guilt over it, but we're working on finding a way to have open, honest conversations without blame. Leah is still wary. She's glad I've been able to make some progress with Rachel, but she's not ready to do the same. She said she's not interested in rebuilding a bridge that was burned years ago. I understand where she's coming from, and I'm not pressuring her to follow my lead. Everyone grieves and heals at their own pace. I won't lie, things are still complicated. But I feel more hopeful than I did a month ago. Rachel and I aren't suddenly best friends, but at least there's a better understanding between us. I'm cautiously optimistic that we can continue working toward a healthier dynamic. Thank you, Reddit, for your advice and encouragement throughout this messy journey. It's been a tough road, but I finally feel like I'm moving towards some kind of resolution.